Hello, I'm back. Today is Thursday, January 2nd, 2025. Another update. It's been a little while, but a lot has actually happened. So I have finally discovered what has been plaguing me for the past almost 4 years, since I had all this crazy disconnection and coordination problems in my legs and lack of feeling in my left leg. And for a while, I had a foot drop on my right side, and I was dragging my right leg while running, and I had this horrible hitch in my stride. And even now, I can't feel my left leg nearly as much as my right. So it turns out that it's runner's dystonia. So I feel so silly because years ago, Kara Goucher, who's a retired professional runner and two-time Olympian, I think she went to Olympics twice. She renounced, I think 2020 or 2021, 2021, that she had runner's dystonia, and I remember sharing on her, like commenting on her post that, oh, I'm experiencing all these similar things. But I did not think that I had what she had because she said she was falling while walking, and I was not doing that. And I feel so silly because I should have at least looked into it. Um, but you don't have to fall while walking to necessarily have dystonia. I think there's, different people have just different symptoms of it, or they're not exactly the same. So there's a spectrum, and I think that my symptoms just didn't include falling while walking, but I was dragging my leg, and my foot was skidding while I was running, and it was a mess. And I just felt completely disconnected. I had no coordination, and I just felt really disconnected from my legs. So it turns out that runner's dystonia is kind of a neurological thing that is primarily like psychologically induced, in fact. Um, or that's what the research seems to indicate. I shouldn't say in fact. Um, so it can be sort of triggered by trauma, whether psychological or even physical. Um, it makes sense because in early 2021, I was falling into arguments with my dad, and a lot of old traumas came bubbling up to the surface, and that was when I was having these running problems. But I didn't make the connection. It just didn't even occur to me that there could have been one. And Kara Goucher, I imagine, was writing her autobiography, which brought up some really significant traumas, and I'm sure that was very difficult to process. And also knowing that it was be disclosed to the whole world, that had to have been pretty stressful. So I imagine that's could could have been the thing that triggered her dystonia. And a lot of people actually have it. It's online. It says runner's dystonia is rare, but I don't think it's as rare as it's made out to be. And it's dystonia is not even just confined to runners. It's all types of um, people. It pertains to all types of movements, especially repetitive movements. So golfers can get the yips, gymnasts can get the twisties, and a lot of musicians have musical dystonia. So pianists, guitar players, and all sorts of musicians can get it. And I actually think that Celine Dion, who had stiff person syndrome, um, it's also a neurological thing. And this is just a wild guess on my part, but I feel like based on what I've learned of both stiff person syndrome and dystonia, that what she experienced is basically a very, very, very extreme form of dystonia, because it's like a neurological thing. And she had lost her husband, and I think that's maybe 2016, I think. And I she had been dealing with it for much longer, but I think that might have caused it to really get super bad, and she had to take time off. Um, and before that, she was canceling a bunch of shows, or had to like stop a show, midway her um, because of her spasms and things seizing and her inability to sing. And I feel for her. But I feel very hopeful because according to my research, 10% of people, at least with musical dystonia, who recover from it actually perform better than before. And I personally think I've had, probably for most of my life, a very, very low level, mild form of dystonia through just performance anxiety. You know, I've had some decent races, so I've run marathons around the 3 hour range, but you know, from a little under 3 hours and a few a little above 3 hours. But I never thought that any of my performances really reflected my abilities. Like, my training should have indicated a much faster race, and I think it's because I do have performance anxiety. So, you know, it really made me take a deep dive into, you know, my past and figure out why I do what I do. And it's been a really good exercise. There's a person named Ruth Chiles, Ruth Chiles, who has written a couple of books, and she has a YouTube channel, and it's all amazing. She's a wonderful human, and I highly recommend her books. I'll put those in the description of this video. But she talks about focal dystonia. So all this dystonia that I'm talking about is focal. So it's like kind of confined to one part of the body, but there's a thing called general dystonia. And maybe that's what Celine Dion had, because it kind of took over her whole body, it seemed. But the main gist is that, you know, you have to really tune into your body. I think a lot of it is a disassociation, which is triggered by trauma. Like, it's a way of coping with trauma, to dissociate from your body in order to cope with it, because your body's kind of in survival mode, especially in your nervous system. So when your body is in survival mode, it sort of sacrifices like the fine motor skills in favor of really activating the major ones. Like, for, you know, there's fight, flight, or flee, and freeze. I'm sorry, fight, yeah, flight, or freeze. And, you know, with animals, it's, you know, the major muscle groups are kind of strengthened and work, but not really the little muscles for fine motor skills, because you're just interested in saving yourself in the situation and not worrying about the little details, I guess. You just need to do what you got to do to survive the situation, whether it's fighting the enemy or fleeing the situation or freezing, like kind of playing dead and trying to fool your predator that you're not worth being paid attention to. So it makes a lot of sense. And, you know, the key is to really resolve the traumas and to really tune into your body and, you know, like, pay attention and give your body what it needs. So I am supposed to be running the Houston Marathon in 17 days, I think. Yes. Things look pretty bleak, because I haven't run more than 6 miles since early October. Let's see, I did a 12-mile run a week before Chicago, and then the day after that I did 6 miles, and that was like, yeah, early October. And since then I haven't run more than that. I did do one 5.5-mile run, and I'm only running like once a week, like 3 to 5 miles, but I've been doing a lot of cross training. So another thing that I think that has been really setting me back in my recovery is actually overtraining. So even though I'm not running a lot, I've been doing a lot of cross training, and because I've had a pretty significant Achilles injury in my left heel, I've been afraid of taking breaks, because it initially got really bad in early 2019 or late 2018, when I took a 2-week break after running a marathon. So I had run the California International Marathon in early December 2018. I did a 3:01:18. Then I took a 2-week break, and everything seemed fine, and I was proud of myself for taking the break. And then when I came back, my ankle was horrendously stiff, and it was just something I couldn't shake for a very long time. And I learned that the more I rested, the worse my heel felt. So I was, even when I got my surgeries, even though I wasn't exercising, I was going into the sauna, like instead of exercising. And the sauna is an exercise mimetic, and it's a stressor. So I think even that was taxing my body. So not having taken a real break in a long time, like 6 years, has really accumulated in my body. And based on my blood test, now nobody has told me this, but I'm interpreting my own blood test. So my white blood cell count is really, really low. My hemoglobin is low. And I think those are both indicators of overtraining. And I just feel very fatigued. My resting heart rate has been higher. Um, and I just feel unmotivated. And those are all signs of overtraining. So January 1st was yesterday, and I just lay in bed the whole day, and I'm committed to actually continuing to do that until I feel a lot better. So I'm probably the only person who has committed to not exercising in the beginning of the year, starting January 1st, versus everyone else who's probably committing to maybe more exercise. But that's what feels right to me. And in my gut, I feel like that's really my only option if I want to get better. So I'm really trying hard to address my emotional and physical traumas. But it's a process. But hopefully I can get it done. If it all feels right to me, and I feel so relieved to finally know what's going on with my body. But in any case, I feel like I'm finally on my way. So um, we'll see. Houston is a long shot. It's so close now. But right now, I would rather be healthy and unfit than fit and unhealthy, which is kind of where I am right now. So we're going to regroup and pivot, and hopefully it'll all work out in the end. But if it doesn't, no big deal. It's just another race. So I know that's a lot to take in, but that's the update, and hopefully it might help one of you out who's watching, because I think that dystonia is so much more common than we realize. You know, and another thing is that a lot of people with dystonia have similar personality traits. They tend to be perfectionist, people pleasing, needing validation. A lot have abandonment issues. I pretty much check all those boxes. But yeah, I mean, it's just about self-awareness, and not necessarily changing yourself, but really being more true to yourself and understanding yourself more. I think that's really the key. So in any case, that's that. Hope you had a wonderful holiday season, and Happy New Year to you. Until next time, take care. Bye.